Hello everyone and welcome to Pro Design Channel. In this video, I like to take you through a journey to create realistic lighting setup. I will share 5 common visualization mistakes that 3D artists make while setting up their interior scene for rendering and the remedies to achieve realistic interior lighting. Mastering interior lighting is crucial for creating realistic visualization as it enhances the mood, the depth, and ambience of a scene. Proper lighting ensures accurate representation of materials, textures, and shadows, making designs more convincing and professional. It bridges the gap between concept and reality. Ensure to subscribe if you have not. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Like and share this video to extend this knowledge to others as well and to encourage me to do more. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So guys, I have this simple setup. I've created the scenes and I've created the materials. I've set the materials as well, so you can look that up on some of my other videos that I've done, how to create realistic materials for SketchUp. I've finished it up, so the only thing left for us is to set the lighting. Firstly, I would like us to see how this scene looks like without setting up the light. Okay guys, so this is basically how things are without setting up the lighting at all. I know this kind of stage can look really frustrating and you don't really know which is next for you to do, and that leads us to the first mistake that artists make while setting up their scenes for interior rendering: overlooking natural light source. From experience, the more the natural lighting you permit into the scene, the more the rendering becomes easy for you. I mean, setting up your lighting. So now we'll take advantage of this. I know there are some instances where you do not have openings, like in bedrooms, and you still need to achieve super realistic lighting setup. That I will touch in a separate video. How do I incorporate natural light source? Want to analyze this space. For now, we have an opening, and this opening is large enough, luckily for us. So we want to permit some light in. So there are different types of light that we would use here. We have the environment light, which is the HDRI, that's high dynamic range image. First, we'll use a portal light, which is also referred to as rectangle light. So that's what we want to use first. We want to introduce some light to mimic the natural light that comes from the outside into the scene. So that's the first thing. Do not ignore natural light sources. It is very important. It's very key. If you have access to them, if you have openings, make sure you make use of the windows and all. So let's jump into that. I want to create a rectangle light here, and we'll go first to the light. So let me see, I think I mistakenly closed that view light. All right, so we have the rectangle light here, and let's just draw here. So ensure you draw your light only to cover the opening. Do not draw all over so that you don't have overexposed surfaces. So this is what I do. Now you just want to rotate this and rotate. Okay, so now that we have this, let's go back into our scene, and you see the first step. I'm introducing this. It's like we have some lighting coming from outside. So let's check what we have now. I'm not setting anything, so now this is what we have, and this is where a lot of beginners will start to conclude on their lighting. What do we do next? We go to do some settings. Now we have the rectangle light, and the first thing we want to do is to make sure that we go to the directionality. So what does the directionality do? So let me mark out the directionality part so we see. So this is the directionality in the setting. So here we influence the characteristics of our light, how far our light travels from the source. So the higher these parameters, the farther your light travels away from the source. So you need to be very careful. So if you use 1, for instance, your light would completely be separated from the source. Sometimes I can use 0.1 and sometimes I use 0.05. So depending on the scenario. So now if I increase this to 40, your scene will be brighter, you know, but you don't have to do this, because the higher you increase this, the more the possibilities of having overexposed surfaces around. You know, you do not want that. You want this to be as minimal as possible so that it becomes really soft within the scene. So let's see 0. Let's see 0. So we see that it gets darker. Let's see 0.5. So your scene gets brighter. Why? Because light now travels farther, you know, from the source. So you can see here we have brighter scenes, we have brighter parts. So if we use 0, if you compare this, you see it's dark, it's dark, it's dark. All these parts are dark because it's on 0. So we want to also check a particular setting here from the option, which is to make invisible. Yeah, guys, we want to make this invisible because this is only to assist the natural lighting. It's not really the main light source, so it's just to assist. It's like an ambience light. Let me make it invisible, and immediately we see the action there. And also you want to affect the reflections, so that means whatever reflecting surfaces that we have will not show the potter. We want to check that off. And once that is done, let us proceed to the next setup. We see that the first mistake artists make is to ignore the natural lighting, and the second is to use only one light source. And the next thing we want to go on to do is to introduce the second lighting, which is our HDRI. So now I just want to grab the HDRI and drop it here anywhere in the scene. You can drop it anywhere in the scene, and let's set up our HDRI. Let's come and set the HDRI. Now we see the HDRI here. We want to pick the file, this hue side. You know, the higher the resolution of your HDRI, the higher the quality of the lighting it generates. So that's how it is. And also the more realistic the scene. To test, I always use the 2K first. Let's go to the texture placement and let's set the rotate horizontal. Let's say 287. Now that we've set that, let's go back to our scene and let's see what this is giving us. And guys, we see that we have something outside here. Let me extend this. See, we have something around this the exterior here. We want to bring the intensity up to about 30. Okay, so 30 should be good. And immediately can we see, so guys, we can see it's giving us some beautiful and nice tint here. We can see the soft shade of sunlight coming through the window. So these are the ways to make your scene look really realistic. The next is to set up our sunlight. Come again to the setting, and to see our sunlight here, we want to go to custom orientation and check that. So at the horizontal angle, let's use 34. Okay, and at the vertical angle, let's use 31.8. and let us see how this turns out. The sun is coming from a different angle. You know, our HDRI was actually flowing this way, but our sun direction is flowing this way. You know, this is also something that is common, conflicting light direction. So we need to align to match what we have on the HDRI. All right, so let's toggle our setting and let's see if we can really do that. So this is the vertical angle and we have the horizontal. Okay, so now we want to tweak the horizontal to at least, all right, come around here. Okay, so this is where we are going. All right, so now we've aligned perfectly with our HDRI, and this is looking good as well. The next thing we want to do is to come to the size multiplier, change that to 5 so that we have soft shadow. We are really progressing, and let's turn this off. So we want to combine even more light. We have light coming into through here. So we want to introduce light as well, and to make it come from other parts of the interior. You assume that at least you have light around, you know, other spaces as well. So this light will assist the overall light setup of your scene. So we want to place some light off the camera. Let's place one around here. Okay, around here, and okay, so that it fills this space, and we'll place another one. So that's a rectangle light here around here as well, so that it fills the space, and then it softens the shadow that is coming from this direction, you know. So that is what we want to just do. Let's quickly place this light. And that is our light. So we want to, firstly, before doing anything at all, let us check what we have in our rendering. So we'll compare with or without this additional light, how our scene looks like. So guys, we are progressing. So let me turn this off. Okay, let me turn this off. So we can see just little addition. Okay, so what we do is to increase the intensity of this. Let's say 50. All right, and also 50 here. All right, so let's see what the scene gives us. And guys, we see clearly there is a light coming from here. You know, it's really obvious now. So we can see our lights, the shadows here are getting softened, which is what we really want. Another mistake that artists make is poor light placement. We can see we try to mimic different scenarios. As I've explained, we see the light coming from the exterior part of the building is what we used all this light setup here plus the HDRI to mimic. And also we see the light that is that we used to assist here is also kind of mimicking light that would be coming from this hallway and also this our bedroom here. So we want to add some more light. I want to create some warm rectangle light here. And let us set it. And this is it. We can change the names of our light. So let's set the intensity to 50, and let's come as well. So we don't need to change this to invisible because we cannot really see it. You just leave it. Let's change the color temperature. Another mistake is to pick the wrong color and intensity. So we want to change this to a kind of warm. So let's just use 3000. All right, so this every other thing, so the directionality set to 0.2. all right, and let us see what we have now. Great. So we can see this soft kind of a light coming from here, and this is nice. I might want to just increase the intensity to around 80. Okay, now that we have this, let us see what our scene looks like with some components within it. So let me bring in the components that we have. So these are the components that I have. So now we are still adding our light. So we see that we've added the portal light, the HDRI. We've added some indirect lighting and also some support lighting around here. So the next thing we want to do is to finally add some little light to detail the scene. So before we do that, let us see what our scene looks like with the components within it. Look at the sun rays on our sofa. We are not done yet at all. So this is looking really nice already. Let us come to the other light source. We see this light source here. So we need to take note of other light source as well. So we have this. So what are we looking at? So this is a bulb. This is another bulb. So that means this bulb obviously will be lit. So we are using spotlight, the combination of spotlight and fairlight. All right, so let's put sphere lights within the bulb. All right, and let us set our sphere light, the intensity to 100,000, and of course the mood to 3000. All right, and that is good. So now the next thing we want to do is to bring in our spotlight. So I want to come to the setting. We have the spotlight. Let's use 80,000, and we want to also set this to 3000. Okay, and every other thing let's just leave for now. All right, let's see what we have with all that we've set. So let's just reduce the intensity of this to 40,000. Okay, so let's check it out. I love this. All right, so let's move on to the final light, which is the pendant light here. So the pendant light has the bulb within it, which are these purple objects. So this is what we want to do. We want to light things up as well. So let's go into the group, and so these are all the bulbs. So we want to do something. We want to add mesh light to it so that it just converts the whole thing to a light object. And we want to set that as well. So where is our mesh light? So this is our mesh light, which would have at about 30,000 intensity, and we want to have that as 4,000 knots. So just to warm the space, and we are good to go with our light placement and setup. And we'll see how this turns out. So we've been able to touch so far 4 mistakes. So the final one, which we'll do, is ignoring post-production adjustment. So a lot of people do this. You ignore because you think it's too complicated, which is not. It's very simple. Just understand some parameters and then you can really get absolutely realistic result. That is way different or far from your render output. It is one thing to have all this setup. It is another thing, and a very important thing, to know how to deal with your post-production and to fine-tune what you have. So let us see the overall look of what this gives us with the mesh light. Let's firstly go to this folder and we check our exposure. I always want to tone down my highlight bond because there are some parts that are getting overexposed. You need to tone that down and a little bit so that it does so. And also your exposure, let's just reduce the exposure as it is so we can see we are getting a clearer image. So let's add our lookup table and select my favorites, and that is this. Okay, we see how immediately it transforms the scene. So we can reduce this to this. We can see the scene is making a lot of sense now. And 0.3. Now come to the render element and select light mix. Okay, so let's say group instances. All right, so if there are instances, it groups them. And now that we have that, let us see how this affects our render overall. All right, so the mesh light is kind of too intense. So let's reduce this to, let's say, 10,000. All right, and also the sunlight, or let me say, okay, this is what I'll do. Let me increase the dome light to 50. All right, so the dome light to 50. The sun is okay. So I think the spotlight, let's reduce that to 20 just to have something soft there. So guys, you just need to balance the lighting. Let us try to render the scene. Let us come to this setting and render output. Let's set this to 800, 1000, and come to the environment. We want to use the dome light for our environment. Copy that, come to the environment, paste as instance, and this is great. So once we have this, we can start to render. We can see this, so we can reduce the intensity of this from here, and that's the beauty of the light mix. So the rectangle here, so we can see the difference. So let's check it on, and we can see some other rectangles. So you can see how this affects the overall scene. So you can see how important they are to the scene. So to soften the shadow, you can see this. So this is basically how this goes. So you can try that on your own as well and see how it goes with you. And guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. If you've learned one or two things from this video, kindly subscribe, like, and hit the notification icon to get notified anytime a video like this is published. Thanks for watching and happy rendering.